Hello, everyone. Welcome to my long-awaited podcast. We're going to get real quick with the ins and outs of helping you, dear listeners, figure out how to live your best balanced life in all areas of wellness. From food, fitness, family, fashion, faith, and fun, I'll be joined by mega inspiring guests in the wellness industry who will graciously share their best tips and tricks of how they do it so we can feel motivated to do what makes us feel good too, because you matter. I am your host, Beth Warren, a registered dietitian in private practice, Beth Warren Nutrition, with locations in New York, New Jersey, and virtually, and a 2-time kosher nutrition and cookbook author of Living a Real Life with Real Food and Secrets of a Kosher Girl, and a mommy of 6. Plus, I'm a boxing lover, which brings me to the introduction of my own personal inspiring guest, Alicia Napolean Espinosa. She's known as Boxing Napoleon on Instagram, and we're going to talk about how to prioritize your wellness goals as a mom and all the challenges that come with it from a world champion making her come back to the ring since becoming a mom. Alicia, known as the Empress, is a former 2-time world champion WC at super welterweight and WA at super middleweight. As of September 2020, she's ranked as the world's 3rd best active female super middleweight by the Ring and Box Rec. In 2015, she co-founded and became co-owner and trainer of Overthrow Boxing Club in New York. Plus, she's an Italian-American mommy and Long Islander who's a big foodie and loves to cook. So welcome, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Beth. You're the best. Thank you for that intro.
I'm so happy you're here, and I've loved you even before becoming your mom, and now that you became a mom, I feel so much more connected to you, and I know so many of our listeners will as well. So fill us in on what's been going on since becoming a mom.
Oh my gosh. Well, first, I just have to say moms are truly like the best and most amazing superheroes of the world. Like, before becoming a mom, I totally underestimated what moms have to go through and how they need to transition into this new role of being a mother, like how difficult it is. And I'm sure everybody's journey is a little different, but for me personally, like being a professional athlete, being an entrepreneur, just being so goal oriented and constantly on the move, becoming a mom put me at a complete stop.
Right.
It was so difficult for me, especially the first year. I mean, plus like going back a little bit,
right,
becoming a mother during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So that being used to being free and doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and that becoming put on hold because I'm pregnant.
Right.
Plus the pandemic. So the pandemic did not allow me to stay active physically in the gym, which really hurt me mentally.
Of course.
I did things on my own, of course, but I didn't have my team. So like I'm used to having coaches on top of me and team.
Right.
That's my world. So my whole world was like ripped away from me because of the pandemic. But I made the choice to get pregnant because my career was on hold, and it was the best decision I ever made. But it is the hardest thing that I've ever encountered in my life was becoming a mom. Because of the emotional, physical, and hormonal toll it took on me and my body and my mind.
Definitely. And the aftermath also is you breastfed through the first year too.
Yes, I definitely made the commitment to breastfeed my daughter. And sure, if some moms don't want to, that's fine. But for me personally, I wanted to breastfeed my daughter. And I had a really hard time in the beginning. I could not get her to latch.
Right.
In the hospital, it's my first baby, right? So the nurses were like, here, they just like shoved her on my breast. And
I remember that.
Instruct me, and I had no idea what to do.
Right.
And they were really rough, and that's fine. That's cool. Like maybe I just got a rough nurse that didn't really feel like explaining things to me. But a lot of breast consultants came in. Do you have any questions? Blah, 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 ask. But I wasn't sure if I needed to ask because I thought, okay, maybe my baby's just going to latch.
Right. You also don't know what to ask, and you don't know what's normal or not. I remember my first baby breastfeeding now into the 6th, and it's I understand why they kind of just throw them on you because it's so normal to them. But when you're dealing with it the first time, you don't know anything. And I also had issues with it, and I didn't know they were issues because I never experienced it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot of things aren't really spoken about. There's not much awareness about all the different things mothers go through when transitioning into motherhood, and breastfeeding being one of them. So I'm just assuming my baby's getting my milk, but really she wasn't. My milk was not coming out. My breasts were, I got home. It was like things changed too. I was in the hospital for one day, came home like that day or the next day after I came home the next day. And they don't tell me like how often to put her on my breast. I really wasn't, I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So it was frustrating as a new mom. My breasts are starting to swell because nothing's coming out. My baby's not able to latch. So it's pretty painful. So they did tell me in the hospital, because I told them I was going to pump.
Right.
Because I'm an athlete, I want to be able to have fun and back into shape during this process of motherhood.
Right.
So they did, oh, you got to pump. But they didn't say how often, right?
Right.
So I'm pumping.
Or even what's the best pumps, or how to do it, or do I do it before? Do I do it after? Do I wait? Do I do one and one? There's a whole world.
Nothing was told. It was like, oh yeah, pump, just put her on your breast, pump. I really had no idea. So it was really hard.
Right. And my point with that was to also explain that you have hormones going through you while pregnant, but then you have crazy breastfeeding hormones, and to try to be, even on the physiological perspective of trying to get back in shape like you were trying to do, that was challenging. And then the timing and the schedule that requires of you with your baby, which in a lot of ways is nice, which I hear from you that was why you committed to it. But that takes your time and really interrupts your day, especially if your baby's one of those that's not going to be timed and on a schedule. So those types of challenges, I'm sure, were difficult for you. How do you feel like you overcame that? And I feel like overcome I really don't even want to use that word, because I don't feel as moms we overcome, like, quote unquote. I feel like it's something that we learn how to adapt to and evolve with versus overcome, because it doesn't stop, you know?
It doesn't stop. So it's definitely how did I learn to adapt? Well, asking for help, like asking my girlfriends that had babies, calling my gynecologist and stuff like that, trying to get direction, and specifically for the breastfeeding. So I finally found a breast consultant who was like just a guru. She knew everything. She was patient. She was kind. So I really recommend moms that are breastfeeding, that want to pump, or even just want to breastfeed. They'll teach you. She taught me how to latch my daughter. She taught me how to do everything. She gave me confidence. And she also made it very clear, you have to pump around the clock. So nobody told me that. So I started pumping 8 to 10 times a day.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pumping for about 4 to 5 hours a day.
Right.
Broken up throughout the day and into the middle of the night. So it was a huge commitment. And then as Alina got older towards the year mark, 8 months to a year, I could slow it down because I'm giving her less bottles. I started feeding her 4 months. But it was a huge challenge. It's just your brain, because I saw some things online researching that a mother's brain actually scientifically changes. It physically changes. We really do become new women.
Right.
Our brain is creating new neurons that we're getting into this mom mode. And I also was on cloud 9 for the first 3 days. And then it was a big boom, a big crash of depression and anxiety.
That you're dealing with alone, especially with the pandemic.
Yes. And also it's very hard for people to understand what you're going through, because it was such a dark place. I couldn't even find the words to articulate and explain what I was feeling and going through, because I didn't know. I loved my new baby. I was so happy.
Yeah.
But then I was so blue.
Yeah. I got the chills when you just said that, because even that feeling is foreign to you. So you don't know what you're feeling. There were a lot of clients in my private practice that nothing to do with having a baby, but I was seeing through the pandemic, and I noticed this look in their eyes, like kind of just like a shock mode, where they couldn't identify what was wrong, but they knew something wasn't okay. And I'm watching it from the outside in, and I'm saying something like to myself, or if they were ready to hear it, like, this is anxiety. Like, this is anxiety. You've never experienced this before. You dealt with it during a time where also hormones are raging and all that, on top of the natural things going on in the world. So I feel for you, because even at the time when I went through my first, it was very difficult. And, postpartum depression or not, or whatever labels are called, the reality is we all sort of hit this, first of all, an identity thing, but also like an internal feeling that doesn't feel like you. It's not you, and you're not sure how to go over it. And sometimes it's just taking the time. Like, it takes time, which I really see you and admire you for that. You were showing a lot of your training through the year, and now you could totally see how you're kicking it up, after the year, which I advise clients too. Like, sometimes life is what it is, and thank God for you is a blessing. Overall, it's a blessing. It's a good reason, but we need time, and sometimes time allows us to see what the next step will be. And then once you see that little glimpse of, oh, I'm weaning off breastfeeding, or the baby's just sleeping through the night at least, or something, that's when I push, like that is our opening as moms, as anybody, but especially as moms. It's not going to be a perfect scenario, and it's not going to be the scenario you remembered before you had kids. It's going to be some little window that opens, that shifts with your kids, that you're like, this is it. I'm going to go full force. And that's what I really respect for you, because if you want to take us through your routine now, I thought I get to Gleason's gym in Dumbo, Brooklyn early. I get there around 6:30. I see you already leaving by then. So take us through how you're managing this comeback and your training.
It's true. Well, when Alina was 3 to 4 months, I was so desperate to get back into the gym. So the only time that I would be able to go without being worried or have mom guilt that I'm leaving her was when she was still sound asleep in her bed. So I would get up at 3 a.m. I would pump. I'd get on the road at 4 a.m. I get to Brooklyn at 5 a.m. I start training at 5. I leave by 6:45, 6:50, because it's so strange. Within that 10 minutes time, you hit traffic at 7. Yeah. So I'm on the road before 7 a.m. I'd be home by 8 a.m. My husband would leave for work, and I'd be there taking care of the baby. So I'm conquering the day while everybody's still nestled in their bed.
I love it.
And I did that. I did that when she was like 3 or 4 months, but then the pandemic kicked up again.
Uh-huh.
And I had to stay home after a month. Like, I did that for a month, and then I had to stay home, and I was so discouraged that I just did my own thing at home. And then I started to kick it up again a couple months later, went back to Gleason's 3 a.m. Definitely was taking a toll, but I couldn't do that every day. There was a couple of weeks I did do 5 days a week at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
It was really exhausting.
And what time did you go to sleep?
I'd have to try to make sure I laid down between 9, the latest 10. If it was after 10, I knew I wasn't going to be able to go.
Yeah.
But I also train clients at home. So I work from home. I have my Long Island team that comes out and they train with me, my own Long Island clients. My husband was wonderful. He built me a gym in our garage, full bathroom, whole 9 yards. So I have something here, but it's still not the same.
Right, as your team.
Yeah, I need my team. I need that atmosphere of other champions. But it is good that I have something here that I was able to stay active during the pandemic, and I was able to train clients from home, which was good.
Right, yeah. That's what I also explain to people the same thing. I can't, and for me it sounds like it's being like a little lazy, but I can't do the 5 a.m. leaves more than like 2-3 days a week, because I just notice and recognize in my body that I'm just way too drained. So I think it's really nice to hear this from you too, that there is like an intuition here about honoring yourself and your body through this process in a way that actually makes you go get it more often than not. It's listening to it in a way that you know when to push it and you know when to reevaluate, which I think is takes time. Do you think that that's more of the athlete in you and just how you've trained, or have you always felt that you've just been in touch with things like that about yourself?
I know I'm a very passionate and ambitious person. And if I have a vision, like I know I'm not done in boxing. I know it's not time for me to hang up my gloves. I still have a lot to do in the sport, and I have a lot to conquer in that ring. So I still have that fire that pushes me to get up at 3 a.m. And get to the gym and train. I know what I'm capable of. And I know my body had to take that break. I knew I needed to get pregnant. I needed to take that time off. I needed to binge and eat that food and rest. And get back for the time being. Okay. I needed it.
It was also hormonal, but yeah, like breastfeeding is you in production of milk mode. You were like legit raising a human being on your supply alone. That's huge.
Yeah. And you and I spoke about this, and I want to make it clear for any moms that are going to listen to this after we're done with this amazing podcast that you don't always lose weight breastfeeding.
No.
And I kept hearing, oh, you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose weight, you're going to lose weight. I did not lose weight. It was very hard for me to lose any weight. I stayed heavy. I did lose like 60 pounds after giving birth. Like I'm down 70 in total now. But you maintain a lot of that weight.
Yes, Alicia and I had this conversation in Gleason's one morning because as a dietitian, I see most people who breastfeed, and even myself, your hormones are more catered towards producing milk, and in order to produce milk, you're getting more hungry, so it could be safe that you can produce milk. You carry more fat in your body on purpose. Like your body is not primed to lose fat when you're breastfeeding. It's just two different modes, like from a physiological perspective. So when you think about it in that range, in that way, we feel a little bit less pressure. So how did you feel about that pressure? Were you, because I only had that discussion with you recently really post breastfeeding. So I wish you knew me before then so I could have helped you through some of that before. But did you feel that kind of pressure about bouncing back, or why isn't this happening? Or I thought I'm supposed to lose weight breastfeeding, because I hear that all the time from people.
Yeah, I did feel that pressure. And yes, I spoke with you about this probably like the week I stopped breastfeeding. Yeah. And you did encourage me and said, soon I'm going to see the change in my body, which I did within like maybe a month.
Yeah.
Give or take, my body started to lean out tremendously. Right. So I was so grateful for that, because you told me all the hard work that I'm doing is not in vain. My body was working, even though I was retaining because of the breastfeeding. Right. My body's still working. It knows what it was going through. So when I'm done, I will start to see the shift and change, which I did. Yeah. And I actually lost all my baby weight, but now I have some COVID weight to take off that's still sitting there. And then I set the bar really high for myself, because I want to get back down to super welterweight. And because that's where I always felt best at.
Yeah, because we're going to update your Wikipedia to be current, not format.
But, I just hope moms realize every mom is different. And also with the breastfeeding, it secretes a hormone for some of us that will cause an increase in postpartum depression. And I feel that I was probably one of them, because the first year of my daughter's life, I suffered drastically. It got better. It got better as the months went by, but it was so hard. And I just moms, just be patient. Be patient with yourself. And it's really hard to communicate though to family, especially when they're in-laws as well. Like my family had no problem saying, please don't come over. Right. Please leave me alone. Please call before you come. Please. Right. But when it came to my husband's family, I felt uncomfortable saying that to them, because I didn't want them to misunderstand me or take it the wrong way. So moms, just try to find the words to explain to your loved ones what you need. I think for most moms, it's really important to have the alone time with your baby. Yeah. In the beginning, you need that bonding time. You need that connection. You want to be able to learn how to be a mom in privacy, so you can make mistakes by yourself. Right. You're under people are looking at you and judging you, because I felt so paranoid about that everybody was judging everything that I was doing.
Right.
It just, people were in and out of my house. It was just the worst.
I would hope this day and age, with mental health becoming more of a priority, even in terms of like self-care and setting boundaries, they call them now, that people recognize, oh wait, I can actually voice, that this isn't a good time, and all things like that. Because I was just like you, I've never really said anything, and even figuring out breastfeeding, and people would just walk in, and at that time, especially with baby number one, I was still so private. I didn't know what I was doing. When you're breastfeeding the first one, you have to like open up everything. You don't know what you're doing. So I absolutely, like, moms should just take care of themselves, which brings us into the food part of this too. How did you manage your eating in terms of you're trying to balance all this stuff? And that's why I always treat food and feeding ourselves as an act of self-care. So we prioritize it and invite it and get excited by it. I know you told me you love cooking and you're very into your nutrition in general. We all love to treat ourselves. I'm all about that too. But explain a little bit about like how your nutrition evolved and changed, how you made time for yourself to even eat, and what's going on with that.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was pregnant, I didn't know I was pregnant for the first trimester. So I was training and running and dieting. Like, I was drinking protein shakes, and thankfully the shakes I was drinking were vegan based, so it wasn't harmful to the fetus.
Yeah.
But, and so I'm just going to start from pregnancy, and then we'll go to But and then when I found out I was pregnant, I still was mindful of what I was eating, and I still tried to stay active because I wanted my baby to get the best. But I gave to cravings, because you need to do that as well. And it's good for the baby to have fats and sugars and salts. It's just, you can't overdo it, right? Everything's about moderation and balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I had the baby, I was just trying to be mindful of my portions. I wasn't really going crazy with diet because I was breastfeeding. I did make sure I tried to eat as healthy as possible, because I knew my baby was getting all the nutrition from me.
Right.
I started calcium too. I think that's important for moms to know. Like, I kept taking my prenatal vitamins.
Good.
I added calcium and vitamin D, and I just made sure that my baby got the best as possible from me. And it's too, because on days that I ate bad, my breast milk smelled weird.
Interesting, because you pumped so much, so you actually were really down and dirty with your own milk. Like, when you pump, you really see what's up.
I ate like Chinese food and pizza one day or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but my breast milk smelled like trash. It was gross. I was like, oh my God, my baby is like, I actually threw it out. It was disgusting. I was like, I really need to eat healthy and clean, because this, like, when they say you're eating junk food, you're literally eating junk, because it smelled like junk. I was like, wow, that's insane. I thought that was really cool though. But I wasn't strict. I just ate healthy, and any junk food I had in moderation here and there.
Yeah. Well, what were some of your favorite things to cook, or what was like the easiest things to whip up? I know you post a nice amount of cooking stuff on your Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I like stuff. I mean, I was home with her, so when she was sleeping, I would make things like, I love homemade hummus.
Oh, yeah.
Easy, it's delicious with, carrots and cucumbers and like those seed chips and stuff like that. I mean, eggs is always easy. I would sometimes food prep, like make a whole bunch of sweet potatoes, roast sweet potatoes, make a bunch of like ground chicken on the stove.
Right.
And I would measure it out. So I had a bunch of stuff in the stove. Like, I think that's really important. That helps moms too.
Oh yeah, the food prep. That's a great point.
And I'm pretty good. I feel like I could eat the same thing for a week. It won't really bother me too much. Then after the week, I'll have to switch it out. But like, I could have a salad and like a big box of spinach, mixed greens in the fridge, some ground chicken, maybe some cut up pork loin or something. Yeah. And big tub of sweet potatoes, and I'll measure it out per meal. I'll make eggs in the morning. Mm-hmm. Eggs and oatmeal. I would make a protein pancake, which is eggs, oatmeal, applesauce. I'll mix that together, a little vanilla extract.
Oh yeah, I love those little like tricks. There's also, you can make that even with like banana as like eggs and banana type of thing. So I love that. And now also it gets fun when your baby starts eating actual food, and then you kind of, especially when you have one, you could just make them eat, what you're eating, and it becomes like a whole fun, enjoyable time.
I started feeding Alina at 4 months old.
Oh, that's great.
And I made her every type of fruit and every type of vegetable, and I steamed it and I pureed it. And that was really easy too. So like for moms that are home with their kids, or even just working part-time, you just puree the vegetables. Like I had a baby food maker that would steam it and puree it at the same time.
Yeah.
If you can get one of those, or even if you can't, just steam it on the stove, throw it in the blender, and then pour it in ice cube trays.
Yeah, I did that with my 6 because I knew that was it for me. And I said, I'm just going to make all my baby food. And it was really fun because also when you do it that way, I find you progress them more, or at least I did, into starting to nibble on foods and things like that, because you don't want to do that forever. And it's a really nice transition into a little bit more of a mushy consistency, and then you get them into a much quicker place than when I remember my first, I was literally doing the baggies forever. I don't even know how much. So it's definitely a more eclectic palate. So what type of tips can we give other moms? So even when people look at me, and that's why I love even hearing your story, obviously, we're not expecting people to be world champions and things like that. I just love sharing our stories of how we do it. And even me, it inspires me to hear how you do it, because it's a lot of juggling. I don't call it a balance. I call it a juggle. I don't think there's a balance. To me, makes me feel that two things have to be on the same even playing field at the same time. And it's not. There's always one ball higher than the other, but you never let the other one drop. And that's just how I describe it. And then you give the other one a turn to get a little bit more attention and priority. So we still want to be able to try to give them tips on if they're facing challenges. My most often question is, how do you do it? Or how do you manage to do it? So I would ask you that same question.
Well, first of all, being a 2-time world champion, that does not make me any better or any different than any other woman out there. But I am super regular, and I am no different than anybody else. So I'm just telling all you moms, find what you love, maybe before the baby, maybe during the baby, but just don't let go of who you are.
Yep.
And this transition of motherhood is a strengthening for us. It's an opportunity for us as women to get to the next level, because we're built for this. We're built to just take on pressure and adversities and conquer them and learn how to adapt in the hardest situations. That's why we carry the baby, because we can. We can do it all. So I just encourage moms, don't forget who you are. Yeah. It's really important to pay attention to yourself during this process of motherhood. Yes. Moms need love. And if we're not able to get it from those around us because they don't understand how important it is at that time, try to find little things that will give you peace. Like I had to get into the gym. And I with my daughter. So I would bring Alina into my home gym, and I would do sit-ups with her, and I would use her as a weight for chest press.
I saw all those. You put a bunch of videos up like that.
And I really encourage moms to do that with their babies, because it's a bonding time too. And I just learned how to try to take everything I loved. I would ride my bike, I would run, I would do so much stuff before the baby that, all right, now I have to make my daughter my sidekick. So how do I transition into this? So I got a running stroller. I got a little trailer to put on my bike that she sits in the back in. And she loves it. I'll do squats and she'll see me and she'll actually do squats. It's so funny. So it's yes, I cannot get the same exact
level of
workout with my child, but I'm getting something in and I'm bonding with her. Yes. And then when I can, somebody will watch her and I'll get on my grind, or I'll go at 3 a.m.
Exactly. If there's one thing I've learned in adulthood, it's how to be flexible and how to accept that things aren't going to be perfect, but it doesn't mean it can't be better.
It's never going to be what it used to be, but it is going to be better as long as you keep that in your mind and you keep working through. Every single time you fall in this new transition of motherhood, because we're going to have so many times that we slip up and fall, where we have a breakdown, we get upset, and we're like, oh my God, I can't take this. What is this? The screaming, they're not cooperating. You just want to do something that you need to do for yourself, and you can't because they won't let you.
Yeah.
It's just,
I feel all that.
this is a season. This is going to pass.
Yep.
My child's going to grow, and if they're going to grow with me,
Right.
and I can teach them and have them as my little mini me. And just be patient. Be patient.
Right. Time.
Progress, because it's purposeful and it's painful. So when you get to purpose, you're going through a painful process. So be patient. All the P's.
All the P's. Okay, that was amazing. And I think, like, kind of to finish this off, it really does come from a place of finding your own self-love and self-care, because in order to want to push for yourself, you have to feel like you deserve it, which is why I start my intro with "you matter too," and you need to believe that, because everything just ultimately does come from you to push through it. So I really appreciate your time. Tell us what we could look forward to next. What could we follow from you? I'm just so excited. I'm extra excited. I've always loved you. I've always looked up to you. You're just, like you said, an entrepreneur starting your business, a woman in a largely man's world that's hopefully changing in terms of the boxing world. I'm so, like, you have balls, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing, which I always felt, but even more so now, seeing it as a mom is so much even more relatable to someone like me, and I love that. So I'm rooting for you. But tell us what we could look forward to.
Well, I'm really excited to continue this journey of getting back in fight shape. So everybody can look forward to seeing me fight, hopefully sooner than later, but you will definitely see me back in the ring. You'll see me behind the microphone commentating again. Also, that's what I'm working towards, to get back into my commentating. And just being this trailblazer for women and now moms. I love that I'm a mother. I love that I can relate. And I really want to continue to motivate the women out there to be the best them and to build the best you and to conquer, because we're all built to be champions.
Yes, well, keep doing that, because we're even feeling that vibe from you, not even trying, just watching your journey. So thank you for sharing it. Everyone can follow Alicia at Boxing Napoleon on Instagram. My Instagram is Beth_Warren on Instagram for more food and nutrition tips. So thanks so much for coming on, and we will be following you there.
Thanks, Beth. You're the best.